Hello there, guys. Hello. All right, another video chat from this guy in Sweden. Hello. Hello, here I am. You know, some people tell me that if you're going to make a video, YouTube, you have to dress up and you have to have a costume or something like that with a tie or tuxedo. I don't know. When people tell me I have to dress up, I'm thinking Batman suit, Superman suit, maybe, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a tough one, or even Batman, because you can't see the face. You see the mask. Ooh, I'm hiding behind the mask. I'm Batman. But, and people tell me, you have to be more serious, Robert, because it's a very serious thing you're doing. And I go like, what do you mean? Well, you help people, become, better at what they do. Well, that's skills enhancement. I say that's skills. Oh yeah, that's not the same as a life quality, because you have to have an attitude. Some people say now, but you have to have an attitude. So if you have an attitude, it doesn't work. But what do you do now? Well, then you still have your attitude. Well, if you meet some people, with an attitude, they kind of suck. You know that? So you have to have some form of flexibility, obviously. I've been writing some, rants. Some people call it. I call it, my sense of humor. And people call me and tell me, when you do this RBIM, what is real? Well, it's a simple, way of focusing your brain on how your body is doing when you're doing and using your brain. And people go like, what do you mean by that, man? I was thinking about that. You see, most people, when they're having what we call a consciousness or reality, they have this, array of options. This is how life is for them. When the mom calls and she is worried or have anxiety or angry or upset or just happy to, call their beloved son or daughter or something like that, or husband for that matter. Most people have a default knee-jerk reaction, right? God damn it, she's calling me again. All right. And they have this attitude, fuck that shit, Or they can have that, oh, she's calling, oh, it's wonderful. We can simplify things. People have accused me over the years to overgeneralize, to simplify it too much. That's a bad thing. Very bad, Robert. Bitch slap yourself. Turn the other cheek till. And wake up, because you can't do that. And I say, why not? Well, if you overgeneralize, you make a generalization too big or too simple, you can't do that, because if you do that, and I say, if you do that, then it works. And then people go like, what do you mean? Well, Richard Bandler said, or John Grader, or some of those guys, said a generalization is only as effective as it is until it falls apart, like this one, right? That's how he described language. But if you do an oversimplification, that rule doesn't apply anymore. It's like, this thing Sad was asking me about, this, distinctions, make a distinction. And he asked me about that, and feedback and quality of feedback and using your senses and the sense also. And because when you create a distinction, you create a difference. And most people in NLP, for example, quote Gregory Bateson, which or someone else, but I know about Gregory. So if you have the difference to make a difference, right? And people go like, that's the difference to make a difference. And I go like, so what do you mean by that? Can you define it? And people go like, wow, Gregory Bateson said, yes, but what did he mean by that? He couldn't explain it either, but he just said it, people go, I don't know, I don't understand. You see, this is what happens when people don't know. This is what happens. You go asking questions, and you get some answers that's like, fog or mist or, parroting, stuff like that. It's really hard to get a grasp on. But it sounds so cool. The difference that makes a difference. Cool. What is it? I don't care. I can go dancing now. Do. I know the difference. They make a difference. Don't ask me that fucking question, man. No. Well, I have a question, sir. Why you don't care? I want to dance. You see, So when you go ask a question, they can't answer you. Oh, it's different to make different. But anything, how do you define it? How do you make that, practical and in an application kind of, patterning or whatever you call it? They go, I don't know what it means. I don't want to talk about it. I must have that. So don't talk about it. Don't ask me those questions. See, this is kind of funny in many ways. I think it's fun anyway. So, I make a distinction here, and if you know my work, RBIM as it calls right now, 5 years from now, I don't know, maybe call something different, something even cooler. I don't know. You see, some people say you can't change your name on your technology. I say, why not? I've changed it 3 times already, so why not? Well, you can't do that. Why not? Well, then it's not the same. Well, it's kind of is, but it isn't, and still is. And people go, I don't like your kind of thinking and logic. Well, it's an oversimplification, an overgeneralization. It's too simple to understand. That's why it works. Anyway, what is the way? Some say. Well, it's anyway. So if there's a way that's anyway, then there's everywhere. Leads nowhere. That's kind of fun with language, by the way, if you're using English, which I have to use here because, most people have some grasp of English. If I could speak Spanish, I would do that, or German, or Portuguese, or some other language, or Chinese, Mandarin, stuff like that. I wouldn't leave you guys out there. If I could speak the Mandarin language, I would use it and communicate more clearly with you Chinese people and Asian people. Who has Japanese or some other kind of, Asian language. Because I have, I like the way some people use the language also, but I have to use English. I can use Swedish also, but then, narrows down to about, 9 million people in the world. English, I increase it to maybe 500 million, 8 million, or 2 billion people. Oh my God, 2 billion people looking up on YouTube. I have to be more serious. By the way, don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. Oh no. Anyway, the thing here is with the brain, when it make a distinction, is that the technology I'm using and develop is about the comparison mode. It means make a comparison, right? And if you understand how the model I do works, you can, at least the experience people have or want to have, or have had, or create a total new one, and to use up the future reference as an ongoing decision-making process, or evolution or evaluation or whatever you call it, as an ongoing, in the moment, present awareness or stuff like that. And some people say, well, even if you have total present awareness, you're still deleting and generalizing, distort the truth. And I go, doesn't matter, because whatever it is people talk about, it's all about what the individual themselves, in this case you or someone else, think and feel at the same time, and how they, receive and think about and how they feel about the world and reality. Right? Sometimes people come to me and say, Robert, my life sucks. And I go like, why? Do you live in the ocean area? And they go like, what do you mean? Well, you say your life sucks. I mean, maybe you live in a house in the ocean and, the waves is, dragging you out and sucking your life out of you. Or you're going to drown or something like that. And they go, no. How did you come by that? I say, well, there's a language and metaphor, stuff like that. Oh, no, it's not that life. My life sucks because, I can't get a date, or I can't, my husband is, teasing me for I'm eating too little, too much, or, or I'm too fat or too thin, or I don't like, some people even have, this kind of funny thing they call, I'm ugly. And I go like, so? Well, I'm ugly, but what am I going to do about that? Well, you have 2 choices. Either you like it, or you do plastic surgery. It costs a lot of money, by the way. But essentially is that's a cultural thing. People in this culture, or a culture, whatever, will decide that you're ugly and this one is more beautiful. And most people will say, well, it's more beautiful, it's more, attractive. That's a really cool. And the thing here is, it's really cool to be attractive between about, let's say 18, just for a number, and about, as if you're a girl, about, 29, 30, maybe up to 34. Something. After that, it's downhill for girls. They get older, I saw Kate Benson on Glee, season 4 here. She looked really old. And most people say, a daughter of, Golden Horn and all that stuff, that she's looking great, and I think she looks great. But her age is showing. And if you're in Hollywood, it's all about the beauty, man. And if you're a guy, it's all about the gray charm. Hey, my hair, man, don't touch it. Right? It's different. So some people say when I talk about my technology and modern distinction and all that stuff, you have the free sense of see, hear, and feel, right? But that's not enough. There's something else also. Joseph Rigger would tell you about that, at least, or some of his students more audibly so. There is something else also. But this, vestibular or whatever people could like to call it, equilibrization, my lips are not turning enough to actually pronounce that word, equilibrization. But it's a really nice word. I can type it much better than I can, pronounce it. And at least you understand it's the vestibular system, it's about the balance and all that stuff. But it's also about, it has different applications in the body. But more than so, it also has different application for our well-being, or how we know, or how we experience reality, or how we want to experience reality, which is the key question. So how do you want to experience reality? Do you want to wake up feeling that tired, yelling at your kids for 3 hours, and maybe then go out and make a living, something like that, and then come home and keep on yelling? No? But a lot of people do that. And they tell me this thing, that that's how life is. That's how I am. And I go, well, I want maybe, but is that how you want to be? No, of course not. I want to be like this, because if I had this, then I would be much happier. And I go like, so we established that's the kind of experience for you. Okay, people go like, okay, I'm happy now, cool. And I wake up in the morning, I'm energized, okay, cool. But my kids haven't understand that yet. They still expect me to be, grumpy in the morning and angry and throwing things off, and I go, and when they look at me, they, what's going on, and they go like, what do you mean going on? You're not angry. No, what should I be? And you're up 7 in the morning, and they go like, yes, I am. Why you ask? Well, you shouldn't be, because it takes you 3 hours before you can be talked to. So the kids learn to behave around the parents. Cool. Other people do that too. So if you kind of run your own experience, you will have some unexpected results out in the world. People will respond differently to you. So you go, that's smart. Oh. And people go like, you taking drugs? No, I'm not taking drugs. No. I'm just happy, I'm cool. Oh. And they go, you take drugs? You can't be happy without drugs. Try this Xanax. It's a really good placebo, stuff like that. Or nocebo, it depends on who is doing the drugs, a lot of NLP, people in NLP, high up in NLP, do drugs, drug addicts. They do it for research, they say. I don't believe that. If you take a lot of drugs and say, well, I do it for research, and I can quit whenever I want to, I'm hearing, self-delusion and drug addict. But since you are, knowing this stuff NLP, you can communicate. And you can also delude. You can also use it you can reframe the reframe. And if you reframe the reframe, so it's been reframed, then it's not the same. It's like the mirror, if the mirror, but since normally if you have a whole wall of mirrors in this way, you see the reflections, right? But in this case, the reflection changes every time. So obviously, if people say, I'm a drug addict, I can quit any time, yeah, I wouldn't believe them. But they will argue for that in reframe. And if you're really cool about, anchoring and stuff, and language patterning, and anchoring, how that works with the language pattern, and calibration, and all that, you can do pretty amazing stuff to, make people believe whatever they want to believe. And if you're one of those people, fine, I don't care. To some extent, I have to care. I did, when I exposed to NLP, I find it pretty amazing tool set. However, I found the people with the amazing tool set sucked a lot. So I asked myself a question. So why can't they, if the model was about excellence, about people doing excellent things, stuff like, extraordinary feats, like Milton H. Doing hypnosis, people, ooh. I can't remember a workshop, a 5-day workshop, and I was so tranced out, I can't remember a thing. I can't remember a thing. 5-day I paid for a 5-day workshop, can't remember it. So what did I pay for? And the people who have been in trance, because it's not about the trance, it's about the Milton H. This is about this magic man. I get to visit him for 5 days, man, and I was totally calm. And then I couldn't recall a thing. It was so great. I couldn't recall a thing. I didn't learn anything, but I have been in trance with Milton H. That's so cool. People say about the same thing about other NLP trainers. I was there and I can't remember a thing. I didn't learn anything. And here's the kicker: you didn't learn anything. And I had this girl in my workshop 10 years ago. She was like, I was open my mouth, she was like this. And I watched her, I was thinking, this is kind of a strange reaction to when I'm taught to speak to people, in a workshop. Because the other people there didn't do that. So after a couple of minutes, I was thinking, I had to wake her up. So I woke her over and asked her about, you should wake up now. Also what's going on. Well, I went to this practitioner workshop in London with my camera breathe, and I was like, cool. So why do you do that? Well, she couldn't use it. Paul McKenna, yes, what she couldn't use it. So when you write an article that she's, the people working in class, that's not true. Not in every case. Oh, you make an oversimplification and overgeneralization. That wasn't true. Oh, yeah. No, that was not an oversimplification. That was just generalization. That's different. Distinctions, And if you're watching all this happening, you're like, oh, I will analyze his language pattern and his, roots of language and persuasion and good luck with that. That's fun to do also, but why should people do that? You can live life also. Anyway, and if you trans people out, a lot of people do that now, be seminars, by the way. And you can't recall 5-day workshop with Milton H. I'm sure that was a wonderful trance for 5 days. But if you can't recall it, what did you learn? You did learn to relax and, be tranced out. But if you're going to talk to people, communicate with the kids, you talk to the kids go like this. And you can leave there for 5 days. Most parents would, however, say to me, I love that, I want to learn that, I want to have the kids go. Now, you can teach them that also. I wouldn't recommend it though, but it's a possibility as anything. And a lot of people don't think about, behavioral modification, stuff like that. You have to be more serious. You can't use stuff like that. I had one of my students, she's a really great girl. She said to me, I did learn this thing in the workshop and I was applying it this way, and I said, I never taught you that. She used the principle I was teaching. So she took her own, genius, if you call me, and applied it in a way that worked. She had this, working in school. She had 2 kids arguing. So she went up there when they were, fighting all this. I took them up and she said, okay, what are you going to do next? Well, he started, I don't care about that. What are you going to do next? She didn't let them go before each one of them told her what they were going to do after this. Then she let them go. And people say, shouldn't she, analyze and find out who started the fight? The kids already knew that. They both knew who started the fight and why. They don't need a parent or some, guardian or something like to start finding out. That's cultural patterning. That's your culture socially. You have to do it that way. And I go, why? So I told my, good friend and professional athlete in golf, she was doing this, and he was like, oh, it sounds cool. He has his own kids. So one day, his wife, went to work. His kid, 5 years old, dude, came down the stairs and was so upset because he wanted to say goodbye to his mom. So he, looked at him and said, well, you're upset and sad now. What are you going to do next? He stood there for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And then he just smiled and turned up and went up to his room. You see, this is what people do in the world of, real world. So he applied that and he found out that it worked. And he was really surprised, by the way, because it was not in the manual for, become a parent, raise a kid. And people tell you, then you, kind of need to do this thing and teach them how the brain works and all that. People don't teach that. And love is not enough, or money is not enough, because a lot of rich people who have kids know that money corrupts them. So they get on drugs and all that. Some kids turn out all right, but a lot of kids get in the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Who knows? Anyway, the distinctions here is in the model and all that stuff. It's a lot of people say, you have to be more serious, Robert. More serious. Right? Why? Well, because that's how people culturally are programming themselves to find out more. But you see, when I'm teaching a workshop, this is really fun about it. I have to tell you people about this over and over again until you get it. When I'm teaching a workshop, I'm teaching you what I'm teaching and writing about in the blog. I had one student said that this is the same thing you write about the blog. Yes, it is. Why should it be something else? Well, because people, when they read a brochure or a website and they get to the workshop, they know already, before even they go to the workshop, it's not going to be the same thing. Me, I do the same thing. I will, however, make a little bit of explanation that I also have a process down that I'm teaching people to access, the experience stuff. And I'm teaching people that in the workshop. I don't write about it. I've been hinting it on the blog. And I'll be teaching that in my next workshop, by the way. So if you're interested, and probably for a Swedish audience, that's my... I would love to come out to the country and teach maybe a few people out there, 50, 30 or 20 people or 50, something like that. This thing. Because it makes your life more simple to some extent. You still need some practice, obviously. But when you get a hang of this, you're going to get younger. You're going to feel younger. The mobility, Interflow from Scott Sonner's system, great system. Takes about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how much you want to do it. Get the effect of the Interflow. You get mobility. So you get your, body in the back. My mobility today, at age 48, it's a lot better than it was 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So the thing here is with mobility and in my joints and all that stuff, it's helped me cope with the things I've been coping with in life. The life is going on, right? So the thing here is that a lot of people think about when you're serious, you have to also be, I know what I'm doing. As I like to tell people, I know what I'm doing to some extent, how much you can really know about it. And the thing here is, when you're doing what I'm doing here is that I don't need a suit or a costume or, I this Batman or something like that to hide behind the mask. Because when I do a workshop, this is when I deliver. And I also deliver the way of making the process work with the RBIM in the workshop, which is simplified form. The problem with all this is that it involves this thing and perception. And since it involves perception, and since people are not used to change reality on the fly, this is my reality. Like one girl said, I've been 2 years, when I was 2 years old, I was moved to a different country, and since then I have issues. When I go like, why not? Why? Well, I've been moved to a new country, and I say, well, why should I have issues with that? Well, that's how it is for her, For him, I don't know. And people go like, So how do you fix that? You don't fix that. You build a new reality. But most people are not used to do that. And if you have to have the same reality for 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years, obviously it's going to take, some adjustment before you're able to do what I'm doing on the fly, obviously. Some people want to do what I'm doing, and I go like, yeah, I can appreciate that. But I have 20 years of experience with things I've been doing with the Bond and LP and stuff like that, Bruce Lee, martial arts and all that stuff. And I'm not expecting people to do what I'm doing. I can teach people to do things in their own way. It still will take some adjustment. It will still take some adaptations for them. That's how life is. I mean, even if you're modeling excellence and if you teach people that, it will take a little bit more than teach them a pattern or a model to make them become as excellent as whatever the predecessor or the model was. That's how life is. I mean, some people can you teach me to be effective with dyslexics? Yes, I can. I can teach you to prevent dyslexia in the school system when the kid starts with, I don't know, I would assume about 90%, something like that. So of 100% dyslexics today who get dyslexia or some kind of reading disorder, disability, probably 90% of them will not end up having that kind of disability that will tampering with the school education, right? The 10% that's left will have more neurological reasons for it, and they need special treatment and education, all that stuff, and they need more support. So it's easy to prevent. And this is a classic story. If you're standing by the river and someone is screaming in the river, oh, I'm drowning, and you swim out there and you pick them up. 5 minutes later, you hear one other guy, in the river, oh my God, I'm drowning, and you see him up and say, it would be much easier if you have walked 5 minutes up the river and find the guy who is throwing people inside the river all the time. Oh, one down the river. So, and it's easier to prevent things to happen than to actually, do something about it. So, I mean, if we train the society as a whole, culture as a whole, to be more happy, we wouldn't need as many psychiatrists or therapists and stuff like that, because more people would be happy. And if we teach them how, the brain works in a way of contextual and all that stuff, social and cultural, and people could understand it, they could relate to that in a different way with the kids and parents and family and all that. And we could make some adjustment, all that stuff. It's easy to prevent and get the message. And the people who are going to be screwed up with drug abuse or drug addicts, whatever, well, they can get, better treatment than because you can have better quality care. So even though I'm not serious, this is my serious face. I know what I'm talking about. But it's, people say, I don't think so. And I go like, well, ask me a question. I go like, and if I can ask you, I will ask you. If I say, this is how I think about it, it's not maybe the definition of it, but this is how I think about it and how I use it. I can do that. That's why people ask me questions on the web. I'm asking them stuff like that. Anything else? I don't know. I mean, it's sometimes I'm not here to convince people about you have to have this, and I say, well, you have to have options at least. You have to have some way of verifying your information. And I mean, I have a hard time when I'm going to a field, whatever field that might be, golf. I ask questions and they can't answer me. I say, how do you hit it longer like this? And they go like, I don't know. Well, we do it this way. And I go like, don't your back hurt? Yes, my back hurt, and my ankle and my shoulder and all that. Isn't that kind of silly? And they go like, well, Robert, this is how we do it in golf. And I go like, can't you do it in a better way? So in a way, I'm an inventor also. Like Nikola Tesla or something like that, Imagine things in the future like Wi-Fi and radio. Man, he invented radio, by the way. Nikola Tesla invented the radio system. Not Marconi. Whatever you've been teaching in school, it's a lie. Yeah, well, at least about Marconi a bit. Nikola Tesla invented radio. He got the rights in about 1940. But most people, they teach you that, Marconi didn't. Nikola Tesla did. Was the greatest man in the last 100 years in the invention business. Well, It's called a Nobel Prize nowadays. It doesn't call it Tesla Prize. They should have a Tesla Prize also, if you just ask me. He's a great guy. He invented the electricity system, the generator, and that's why everybody using it all over the world. That's Nikola Tesla. That's a bright guy. He was a little bit phobic on the end of his, they didn't have NLP back then. They only had, I don't know, Freudian psychology. 10 years of it. Who has time for that, man? And the dark ages, I like to call it the dark ages. And people go like, well, that's not like 1940. And I go like, yeah, dark ages. But when do you get the light ages? And I say, haven't happened yet. Haven't happened yet. I'm too serious, I used the mask. Don't get me up here. Anyway, the thing here is, whatever it is I do or teaching or trying to, get across as a message, whatever you call it, is that a lot of people are serious because people, in the world expect people in my kind of line of business to be serious. I like movies like this, The Matrix. Totally cool. I get the concept. And you gotta want it. Okay. So they're out there in the world, right? So they get back from the Oracle, and Neo watches the cat in the door, and he says "Deja vu," and they go like, the others, what do you mean deja vu? I saw a cat. Was it exactly the same cat? But I don't know. And then they go like, that's the signal that changed the system. And I was like, wouldn't they tell, Neo that in the training program that when the matrix is changing, a deja vu can happen? Wouldn't they tell him that? But it doesn't get the same effect if you, sometimes you get a deja vu effect, right? And then that will happen in the movie. If you tell them that in the start of the movie, it wouldn't be as dramatic. Movies sometimes is not real because it's made so you can have a great experience. You can have a exposure of the, for me, Peter Jackson, genius. Man, Peter, if you want to have me, want to hire something for any movie, whatever, I will wear a mask for you. Just give me a call. I'm so happy, I want to say that the Lord of the Rings movies, I can see them on the big screen. I was reading them as a kid. I'm about, 13 years old, 12, 13 years old. I was exposed to the Tolkien world of the Lord of the Rings. And now I'm waiting for the Hobbit movies. They're going to be 3 movies with the Hobbit. And I'm sure, again, that will be a wonderful experience. Some people say, well, it's, factual error and all that stuff. And the movies is about experience, a different world, to get, submerged into this wonderful, immense experience. That, as Tolkien was writing in the books, that I'm trying to create a history of English background, all that stuff. So for me, this actually happened. P.G. Jackson made the first 3 movies in that way, that this is history we are documenting. And it came out beautifully like that. Some people are always nitpicking the details, all that stuff. I do that sometimes. Even though I'm overgeneralizations guy, simplification stuff. It's not that simple, Robert. So I have students come to my workshop and they go like, Robert, it can't be that simple. Okay, should I do it again? People look at me. Because they can't grasp it's so simple when I'm doing it. Because I understand how it works in a way that maybe they don't. Because people, when they have this, beliefs and all the stuff and values about how things works, when they get an exposure of it doesn't work that way, most people have a hard time accepting it because they have to understand it. And I say, you don't need to understand it. All you need to do is go with the flow, man, without the drugs. I don't like drugs. I can do coffee. That's about my level of drug intake. People say, you coffee, well, that's pretty strong drug. I agree on that. I don't smoke. I don't take, alcohol or other variations of drugs. Maybe I should. Maybe I will really LSD my open my mind with LSD, coloring, shifting, all that stuff. That's why I liked it. The some of the YouTube videos when they have this kind of how the brain works and what you see and not to see and stuff like that. So if you're looking at the screen and you see one guy in one color and one shot, the brain deletes that. So if you replace the coloring or the clothes and stuff, people don't notice that difference. That's kind of amazing. And if you've been watching this, you will be thinking maybe afterwards that the color has been shifting on the video. LSD. Well, it's our perception anyway. Anyway, I've been rambling a bit too long. Other things to do to be more serious about. I don't know. And if you want to build and become a legend or be, on that road of legendary awesomeness, this is the way to go, man. Without the drugs and with a smile.